All right, now that we've done a little bit of modeling, let's just go ahead and do a new level here. We'll do a basic level, and we're going to take a look at how you create materials. Now on this floor, there's actually a material of this checker bar texture material. And what a material does is it sort of controls the look of an object. So on my content drawer down here, I'm going to click on this, or you can hit Control and Space and bring that up. And I'm just going to hit Dock and Layout, and that's going to lock it into our layout here. And inside of our content folder here, I'm just going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this materials. Now I want to save the layout here, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Save All here for the layout. And let's start off by creating a new material. I'm just going to right click, and I'm just going to click on Material here. And we can just name this M underscore material, or like basic. This is just the material we're going to play around with. You can also click add here, and you can create a material that way too. And we go ahead and delete this because we have a material here. All right, as I mentioned, a material is used to control the way the surface of an object looks. So what is an object? An object is like some of the things that we modeled in the past. So I'm just going to go to click this little box with a plus here, which is our quick add, and then go to shapes at the bottom here and add a sphere. I'm going to pull that up a little bit and pull it forward. Now you can see that there currently isn't a material on here, or there's a basic material. And if I go down here, you can see basic shape material and it's white. If I grab the material we just created and I drop it in there, and it actually, what's nice is if I click on this and I start moving it, you can see that it created like a little blue area with a marquee around it, indicating that that's a place you could drop that material in. So I'm going to double click this material here. You can see that it opened it up. And in here, you can see that there's these different shapes. If you want to see it on a cylinder, a sphere, or whatever, we can dock this in our scene here. I'm going to hit Control S to save this. And here's where we can adjust the material properties of our material. So I'm zooming in with my wheel. I'm holding the right mouse button to pan. I can left click on this and move it around. So this is about as close as I can zoom in. You can also dock this in your, kind of dock it other places, sort of in your scene. I tend to just, instead of just maximizing it this way, you can just kind of dock it here. And then that way I can just switch between them. So I'm going to go back to my sphere here so we can edit this, and it'll look similar to our scene. So for example, if I hit save right now and I go back in our scene and I go to untitled, you can see it's black. And the reason for that is because we haven't adjusted any of these parameters, which are controlled by nodes. Now, right off the bat, this might seem a little daunting. If I highlight over this, you could see it says result node of the material. This is essentially called your result node. And a node just means it's one of these little square boxes here. And within it, these combined create something called a physically based material, or you'll hear PBR or PBA, these different terms for physically based rendering or physically based materials, essentially. And each one of these slots controls a different thing. So for example, the color here is this dark gray, and that's what's controlled by base color. So if I, for example, press 3, the number 3, I hold on number 3 and I left click, I have this color node here, which is a constant. So if I grab this top color here, which is all 3 of these colors, red, green, and blue, and I dial it into this box, with this node selected, I can go in here and I can adjust these, and these give me these different RGB values. So if I want it to be pink, I could hit OK. You can see now it's pink. And if I hit apply, when I hit save, if I go back in the scene, you could see my sphere is now pink. And this controlled the color material. Now metallic, if I hold the number 1 down and I click, it gives me a float value. Float value is like a 0 to 1 value. I mean, a float value is any number with a decimal, 1.1, 1.2. And the reason for that is because we can be more incremental. If I tie that into metallic and I play with this value here, and I move it from left to right, you could see that as I crank this up, my sphere becomes more metallic, or more metallic in its appearance, right? If I uncheck, or I unlink this, I'm going to select this and just delete it. Or I guess I could just kind of, how do I get rid of this? I think it's Alt click. Yeah, Alt and click on it. Sorry, I'm going between you. You could see if I hit Control Z, the surface property changes. If I hold the number 1 key down and I click again, and I go to roughness, for example, roughness makes it look more like a ball, or like more like a mirror. So if I bring this metallic, so let's see if I adjust this value and I bring it closer to 0, you could see it becomes more or less matted and less reflective. So the higher the value, if I go with 1 here, it's completely matted. If I go with 0 here, it's it's reflective. It reflects the scene. So we have almost like a chrome ball or a mirror. So if I hit save that and I go back into our scene, you can see here that it's reflecting the environment. So this is a nice way for you to create mirrors, things like that. And really, within all of these different values, it's just these combined help this material start to look more realistic, right? So let's do one more. Let's do this emission color down here. So I'm going to move these up a little bit like this. I'm going to hold the number 1 key down and click on it, and I'm just going to drag that into emission here. And what's going to happen is really not much, because this is just making the value sort of whatever is there and blowing it out, right? It's kind of making the ball kind of glow, but it's not really providing. Like if I save this, it's giving it a little bit of a glow in the scene, or like a wided view. But say we want this to emit or emissive, like a color, like make it like a glowing ball. So let's say we want it to not just be pink here, but we want it to glow not glow white, but we want it to glow pink, and we want to control how brightly it emits or it glows. Well, we have these ways of multiplying or adding or subtracting different values or different things together. So I'm just going to hit the space bar here. I believe if you hit M and you left click, it also gives you the multiply node. But I want to show you right thing. So I'm going to right click here and I'm going to type multiply. And again, you have to forgive me. And under this math section, I'm going to select multiply. And what I mean by forgive me is I'm jumping between Unity and Unreal, so I kind of get messed up with the hotkeys. So instead of the emission color here, I'm going to detach both of that, and I'm going to detach this for a second. And I'm going to multiply the value that's here with this color. And this is going to multiply or increase the strength of this color. And I'm going to tie this right into emissive here. And what you'll see here is this value inside of here. So if I click on this and I move this left and right, this will control how bright or how much that glows. And let me see if we can save this. And we'll go inside of our scene and move this closer to the ground. And you can see as we get closer to the ground that it's increasing the brightness inside of my shadow. And let me go back into my settings here and select my directional light. See if I pull this color down a little bit, or this intensity down. Let's see. And so it's almost dark. Now you can see that it really is glowing. And based on how strong this is, if I increase the strength of this, like really crank this up to like, let's say 3, and I hit save here and I go back in, you can see that it's almost like a really bright light bulb. And that's what emissive does. And so when we take our directional light, and if we adjust that intensity back to 0.6 here, you can see it's still pretty bright and it still glows, but the sun or the directional light in our scene really softens that. And honestly, we'll get into normal maps and stuff later. Normal map is what controls the bump information. But for now, just giving you a basic idea of how this material property works. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S to save this. And what we'll do in the next window is we'll talk about material, or the next videos, we'll talk about material instancing.